Hi, this is Molly from the CMSNet Help Desk. Today I'm going to do a webinar related to viewing a modified eSAR request. We get some questions to the Help Desk sometime related to modified requests. Basically, a user is viewing the eSAR request and they are about to either pin the SAR or authorize the SAR, but yet they get a pop-up rejection box when they are not trying to reject the request and they're wondering why they're getting that. So I will go ahead and show you some examples of why you will be getting that and how to avoid that, or if you don't want to avoid it, then how you can basically understand what action you're taking and what the providers will be seeing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So once again, this webinar is related to viewing a modified eSAR request. So I have some test cases here that I have an acceptance test that I will be using. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and click on the All Awaiting Service Review. And the first modified requests obviously have the reals. This is my fake line, okay? So it'll have the permanent SAR number starting with the 9. 9791 or 9899, depending on if it's CCS, DHP, negotiated, EPSDP, SAR, etc. So a modified request would basically be the temporary SAR number / the permanent SAR number. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the first one and show you an example of a request that came in. It's not a service modified, like they're not asking for more service, but maybe they're asking for a service end date extension and stuff like that. But if a user basically misses that, then the rejection pop-up box will come up. So in this modified request here, this is the awaiting service request, and this is some of the info. Not all the infos will be displayed here, but some will. So basically, the user will be clicking on the Modify tab. Once they get to the Modify tab, they will review the request. So there is information, and so the provider, the PDI users, can send in requests related to the provider information section, which is maybe the provider has moved and maybe their address has changed. So if they see that the address is incorrect, they might edit the address, and then you'll see some hyperlinks there. And then also, they also have the ability to send in requests to the service begin date and service end dates, okay? And also if it's in patient SAR, like number of days and things like that. So the changes will be hyperlinked. So, and the service code information, if there's any that they sent in to maybe they wanted to add more units and things like that, or add another service code, you'll be seeing those codes highlighted in blue in the service information section. So in this example, I'm just going to pretend I did not know they wanted a service end date extension. So I'm going to look at the request and I'm like, okay, well, I don't really see any changes, but for whatever reason, you're going to go ahead and authorize it, okay? So maybe they sent in an attachment. You can view the attachments here, make some changes to the label if you need to. We do allow you to do that. And this will appear in a case note as an eSAR attachment case note with the updates, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click Authorize. So all of a sudden I click Authorize and the rejection pop-up comes up. And I'm like, what? Why is that coming up? So basically, that means that there were some changes that you didn't view, meaning you didn't view or accept any of the changes. So you can cancel this out, scroll back up, and like I mentioned, there's 3 sections that the provider can send in a request for. The provider information section, the SAR information section, and the provider information section, the authorization modification information section, and also the service code information section. So we don't see any changes in the provider information section. We also don't see any changes in the service code information section. But we do see a hyperlink here in the authorization modification information section. So that means they actually sent in a request to extend or modify an end date. So to click on it, you just basically click on the hyperlink, and the system does allow you to drag the box, so if you want to see it next to each other, you could. So I drag it down here. So the date used to be 4/26/19. The new date they want is 5/31/19. So you can still accept their date, and by checking the checkbox, the green check, and it will populate here. But just because it populates here doesn't mean that you have to accept this date. You can change it to another date if you need to. If you don't, but at least you don't have to deal with that rejection pop-up box. So let me go ahead and click on Undo. So basically, if you click on the service end date, and you decide that you are not going to accept it and just close out the box. And then when you go try to, and then, oh, let me redo that. Let me quickly do that, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to quickly undo. So let's say you click on the end date, and you view the information. You're like, well, no, I don't want 5/31/19, and you close it down. So you did not actually accept their changes, and you close out the box. And then you like, okay, they want 5/31, but I'm going to make it 5/10. Let's say that, so 5/10. And then you scroll down to the bottom to authorize the SAR, but the rejection pop-up box still comes up. Why does it come up? And that's because you basically didn't accept the changes. So that means you have to choose a reason why you didn't accept the change. So you can choose one of the rejection reasons, enter your comment, click Continue. The system will authorize the SAR with the end date that you changed it to, and along with on the PDI side, the provider gets a deleted eSAR request with an authorized SAR. So they'll see an authorized SAR, and they'll also see your rejection to the date that they propose. But if you don't want to deal with that, there is another way around that. So what you can do is I'm going to go ahead and basically undo this change that I did. So if you don't want to deal with the rejection pop-up box, you can click on the service end date and review it. And you can review it and be like, okay, they want 5/31/19, but I'm going to give them 5/10/19. To save you extra steps on dealing with the rejection box and typing in comments, you can just go ahead and accept that checkbox, accept their date by clicking on the green check. It populates the date onto the service end date field, but you can still change it to the date that you really want to give them, which is 5/10/19. And then when you click on Authorize, that pop-up will not come up. So basically, when they go into PDI to view the authorization, they will go ahead and just see the authorized SAR, and then they can click to view and know that, oh, I had sent in 5/31, but hey, they gave me 5/10, so this is the authorized SAR. Okay, so that's basically how to view the modify request and how to avoid saving you some steps if you're going to authorize a SAR that has a modify request and you're not really going to accept their date, but you are going to make changes to the SAR. But like I mentioned, if you don't want to accept any of their changes, just go ahead and use the rejection box to reject their request, but you can still authorize the SAR. Okay? Another example, let me just go ahead, since we have one here, let's go ahead and view another modify request and see what this one's about. So I'm going to click on that modify request. And let's go ahead. So like I mentioned, you can come here and view. So they sent in two attachments. Looks like they sent in some service code update as well. And also, actually before I go into the modify, let me quickly show you some of the case note changes really quick. So it's off topic, but some changes that are related to the April 2019 changes. So we did make some changes here in the PDI user info. It used to be called PDI requester info, so it's now renamed to the PDI user info. And also, we did not add the PDI user's email address before, but as of 4/26/2019, when you view the future case notes after the changes go in, you will start seeing the provider's email address here in the PDI user column. And you will also, if they enter, there is a field in the PDI form. This is the PDI form. So they have a field called name of contact person for this request, phone number, and email address. So the email address is optional. If they enter the email address, it will appear on the case note history section, which will be right here in the message. And they have 200 characters to type in their message as well. And then the name of the person, the phone number that they had entered will appear there as well. And you can also view the eSAR electronic template as well for the case note. So now back to the modify request. So let's go ahead. And so for the modify request, this is they sent in some unit codes and also some attachment, and by the way, those do appear on the case note. So you have here what the attachment they've sent in and what the attachment types, and also now you get to see the units, the service code and the units that they sent in as well. Okay. So before, prior to this release, you will not see the unit. You just see the code, but you don't see the units or the quantity. Now you will if they sent in those. So let's go ahead and click on Modify. So in this request, there's a lot of hyperlinks. So I did that on purpose, setting in some changes so that you can see. So like I mentioned, the providers, they have the ability to modify certain sections and send in requests to changes to those sections. So in this section, I purposely updated their address and their phone number, and I also asked for an end date change, and I added some service code. So this is how a request looks like when there's changes in these sections. So for example, if you want to see the changes, you can click on the hyperlink, and you can move the box around, and you can see that, oh, look, their address is now changed to 123 Test Avenue. So since they moved, I will go ahead and accept that. And then look, they got a phone number now, so I'm going to enter the phone number. They also have an extension, so I'm going to go ahead and add the extension. And even though you accept it here, if you know it's not correct, meaning they might have called you and be like, oh, by the way, I had put my address as 123 Test Avenue, but it's really 123 Test Boulevard. You can make those changes for them as well, okay? Also, the end date, like I mentioned, if they change it to begin date, there'll be a hyperlink here. End date, there'll be a hyperlink here. So wherever you see the hyperlink, just click on the hyperlink, view the changes that they're sending in. You can drag and drop and figure out too close to the field that you're trying to view. So here it used to be 5.2, there's 5.31. So if you're not going to accept it, you don't have to. You can just close the box down. And they also send in some codes here, 33945 and 33979. And you may be wondering why there's no description. And there's no descriptions because when you enter the code in, let me go ahead and type in this code. For example, if you were to add a service code, and you type in 33945 and you do a search, it is not the provider that selects the type. It is you, the CMSNet user, that selects the type. And that is the reason why we don't display the description until you pick the type. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and select OK, and then click Continue. So the one that I had added, as you can see here, is now the description displays and the type also displays. So that's basically the same as here. When the provider sends in the code, they don't pick the type. It's the county user or the state user that is working on the authorization that selects the type. So therefore, you as a user will have to click on Select. So once you click on Select, it will display the code and the types, and you select the type. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on J for this one and click Continue. So as you can see here, I selected J, so then J displays. So now the description displays. Same thing as the next code, so you can go ahead and click on the next one. And once you click on it, then it will display. And so that is basically the reason why the descriptions for certain codes. If it's a one-to-one match, the system will display it. But if it's one of those where it requires a user to select the type, then it's going to have the red select here. So that's why certain one doesn't display. Okay. So now that we make the changes, and I'm just going to get rid of this extra one. So we made the changes, we accept and save changes, we ignored the end date, and we also click on Select to select the codes and the types. And now we're going to go scroll down to the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and click on Submit. And now the changes are accepted. Okay, so there you go. So now you have the changes. So that's basically a quick review of, well, not that quick actually, 14 minutes later, on how to view and work a modify request. Okay, bye.